Hi guys, welcome back aboard good old Athena. I am still slab dab in the middle of my ABYC electrical certification course, but there is a quick project here on the boat I think I can get crossed off the to-do list this week. This is a Dometic Breathe 4500 marine air purification add-on kit. Rolls right off the tongue. What's inside of this little box is supposed to help purify the air and also help eliminate old boat funk. The installation should be a breeze, so it shouldn't take long. And then hopefully, a little bit later in the video, maybe we can take Mr. Moneymaker, our underwater metal detector, for another spin.
If you're new here, we're Ava and Mess. I spent 7 years on a somewhat extensive refit of our 1987 Trident Warrior sailboat named Athena. It was an oh glorious sanding extravaganza. We left Denmark and started cruising full time, sailing down Europe's west coast, and then we had our biggest adventure yet, crossing the Atlantic. Now we're sanding and sailing our way around the world.
If you ask me, I don't think Athena has any kind of smell, but if you ask Ava, aka the wife unit, she will say that there is some kind of smell. But regardless, we've all been on boats that are either really old or boats that have been closed up in the heat for a while and experienced some kind of boat funk. Supposedly, the little box here from Dometic can help with that. Now, I am no expert, but I think this thing works off the same principle as household air purifiers, but there's a description of how this works on Dometic's website. When voltage is applied to the two needlepoint brushes, they interact with oxygen and moisture in the air to produce negative and positive ions. These ions have three positive effects. So yeah, I think that is the same principle as in household air purifiers. I just confess to not being an expert in air purifiers, nor am I an expert in marketing, but there's something funny going on here because over here there's a photo of a guy, I'm assuming this is a boat heading into what I'm assuming is a head to do some smelly business, and then the doohickey can help eliminate that smell. But if we direct our attention over here, there's a young lady here laying with her feet and butt facing the camera. So what's this implying? That she's tooting up a storm in the forward? I don't think we ever get too old for a quick little fart joke. But having said that, I'm glad I'm not a model because poor lady in that V-berth. But what I'm excited about this guy here is the fact that he integrates into our existing air conditioning, meaning for very little room, we get also the added benefit of an air purifier on top of our air conditioning. This is everything that was inside of the box. I'm assuming this little guy is the brains of the operation, and as you can see, he's pretty tiny. That's awesome on a boat. It looks like we installed the brain box on a bulkhead, and then we used the little included template, this little guy, to drill a couple of holes in the air conditioning unit for the two spiky things to go into. It looks like it's a simple 2-wire connection to power the air purifier. Depending on what model of the air conditioning you have, it's either connecting to the seawater pump or connecting to some kind of fan headers here. I think that means you can't use the air conditioning without turning on the air purifier also, but yeah, I don't know if that matters. Looks like I need a small diameter drill for some pilot holes and then an 8mm drill to drill the holes for these two spiky doodads here. Ooh, nice silicone. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but I'm assuming this is tiny little strands of carbon fiber poking out here because of course that would be conductive. It looks like Mr. Step Drill here is exactly 8mm, but I think the biggest challenge in this project is going to be emptying out the hanging locker in the forward cabin. Athena is only 38 feet length overall, so that means we don't have a lot of storage, which again means we use all the storage we can find. Because of that, our air conditioning unit is installed here near the bottom of our hanging locker. This installation meets all of the requirements from Dometic, but it also means that to get to the thing, well, we kind of have to empty out the hanging locker. Insert funny comment about the amount of yarn and crafting supplies on a 38-foot boat. That'll get me in trouble with Ava later on. I've removed the shelf that was here to get access to the blower. That's where the card here tells you to drill the holes for the two spiky bits. Smushing the two spiky bits in place was easy. In fact, the only slightly challenging aspect of this installation is getting the wires into the air conditioning brain box. It's a bit of a tight squeeze, but everything is now hooked up. There's a little LED up here that's supposed to be on to indicate that the air purifier is working. So let's turn on the air conditioner and see if it works. We don't normally run the air conditioning a lot when staying at anchor, mainly because it consumes quite a bit of energy. We do run it if it's been like a really hot day without any breeze, then we'll run it for maybe an hour or so before going to bed just to cool the boat down. And the same if it's been raining and it's really humid, then the air conditioner will pull that humidity out of the air and make it a lot more comfortable inside the boat. The little LED came on, so I'm guessing the air purifier is doing its magic. I mean, the air smells perfectly fine, just like it always does. It is a bit of a shame that we can't run it for a longer period of time, because I think one of the side effects or benefits, depending on how you look at it, to using the air purifier is that any dust in the air should clump together and then fall down and land on your surfaces and stuff. So I guess if we run it for a few days, we might see more dust on the surfaces inside of the boat, but yeah, we'll have to wait until we're in a marina. Encouraged by a couple of days with lower wind speeds and therefore hopefully slightly improved visibility under the water, I put up our dive flag. This flag warns other boats that we have a diver in the water and to keep their distance, or at least they're supposed to keep their distance. I assembled my dive kit in the cockpit. Because we don't have a swim platform, getting everything in the water single-handed is a bit of a staged process. I strap on my BCD in the cockpit, including the integrated weights. Oh, and this time around I am bringing a digging implement. The rest of my gear I have precariously perched on the back of the boat where I can reach it from the water. A swim platform would make this process a lot easier. Because there is no guarantee that other boats will see the dive flag or know what it means, I decided to stick to the area immediately under the boat. After 5 minutes of not getting a single signal, I found this long, very stretched out bit of very strong signal. Pulling that thread in the sweater led to a pointy bit of metal that was thankfully very well stuck in the seabed. After searching a bit longer, I got my first real signal. To not damage the seabed, and also because I had lost my digging tool, I carefully tried digging with my fingers, but even being super careful caused a big plume of sand to get swirled up, making it difficult to see what I was doing. I gave up and went searching for my digging tool, aka my hull scraper, that I would be very upset to lose. Thankfully, I found it. After yet more glorious searching, I got another signal. This time around I tried using the scraper to dig as carefully as I could, but again it caused sand to get swirled up, and also I definitely need to put on more weight to be able to dig. I didn't see a lot of fish on my little expedition, but I did say hello to Mr. Barracuda, whom I found circling my anchor. It's so nice of him to be concerned about me dragging anchor. Although no contributions were made to the retirement fund today, I still had a lot of fun. There are some things I need to do to improve or just change, right? I need to put a little bit more weight on so I can have some digging ability, and also I need to become better at pinpointing exactly where a signal is so I know exactly where to dig. Even if I had a proper digging implement, I don't want to do a ton of digging, especially not in this area where there's a bunch of seagrass. I don't want to damage that seagrass. Ava's flying back to the boat next week, and I think I'll have her bring a few little doohickeys. Like for instance this pinpointer, which is meant for underwater, as in diving underwater use. This should help me, well, pinpoint where to dig. And then also I will have her bring back this digging implement here. It's a plastic thing meant for digging when metal detecting, so yeah, hopefully this is good. According to the weather forecast, the next 2 days are going to be basically windless. Hopefully that'll translate into even better visibility under the water, in which case I think we should take this underwater camera for a spin. We brought this back from Michigan last summer, and I haven't yet had a chance to take it for a spin. I spent the next 2 days studying for the ABYC electrical certification. This is the second week of the course. The course is awesome, but I am struggling a little bit to figure out exactly how much I need to study for the exam. In Denmark, at least when I was in school, there was no such thing as multiple choice tests, and I'm having a hard time figuring out exactly how much I need to study or prepare to pass this multiple choice test. Well, I guess we'll find out next week. It is Friday morning, school is out. I'm still gonna be studying this weekend, but today is the last of the windless days, meaning today should be our best chance of having good visibility underwater. And also today the wave action is very, very slight. So today should be our best chance to go check out the little sailboat that's up on the reef really close by. Looking at that little sailboat at a distance, I think it's been there for a while, so I hope some interesting life has formed around it. I love any kind of underwater activity, and I've been wanting to get into underwater photography for quite some time. And I think what I've got here represents the cheapest and also the easiest way to get started, especially if you want to do macro stuff, meaning tiny little critters. This is an Olympus TG6. Since we purchased this little guy, the TG7 has come out, but I try not to think about that. The reason I chose the TG6 camera is because it's pretty good at macro stuff, but it's also pretty affordable, so it's a cheap way of getting started. And also you can get this housing, underwater housing here, straight from Olympus for not that much money. To go along with the camera and the underwater housing, I found some great accessories on a website called backscatter.com. There is this underwater wide angle lens that, with the addition of these O-rings, one of them, will allow me to do what's called split photos. Those are the photos where half the photo is below water and half the photo is above the water. I also picked up this tray and this underwater light. Now this is a video light, not a strobe light, but that's on purpose. I did that because I want to shoot both photos and video. And apparently even if you want to just shoot photos, it's easier to get started with a video light, simply just because the light is on all the time. So when you look through the camera, what you see is what you get. With underwater photography, the deeper you go, the more and more important it becomes to bring a good light source. But seeing as that little sailboat is actively not sinking, it's got to be sitting on top of the reef, and that's got to be shallow. So to not get bogged down with a lot of gear, I think we'll leave the light here on the boat, and we'll also leave the scuba gear here and just bring a snorkel. I'm still going to bring the wide angle lens. I don't think it's going to be super useful because it's so shallow where we're going, but I would like to try and take one of those split photos. So yeah, let's get all of this stuff loaded up in the dinghy and head out there. I loaded all my stuff into the dinghy, lowered the dinghy into the water and headed off. I was only able to motor for a little bit before it started getting so shallow that I had to switch to a far less enjoyable means of propulsion. I tied the dinghy to one of the old halyards on the sailboat and jumped in the water. Without exaggerating, I think we can all agree that this qualifies as a bit of a fixer-upper. On the plus side, it comes with sails, although they might need a slight touch-up at the sailmaker. There's also two almost new winches, recently replaced standing rigging, as well as a slightly damp outboard. After playing around for a bit, I headed back to the dinghy to remove the wide-angle lens. It was a bit too turbulent with the waves for me to get any good macro shots, but before leaving I wanted to get a quick look on the inside. Surprise, surprise, there was absolutely nothing left inside of the boat. But I was surprised to see that no one stole the winches or tried rescuing the outboard immediately after the boat had wound up on the reef. Quick side note, the oars that Zodiac provide with their dinghies are the worst. We have already lost 2 oars. This was about to become the 3rd. In terms of macro stuff, that excursion was a little bit of a waste, but I did get a couple of good shots. Enough that I'm so encouraged that I'm going to put on scuba gear and jump in the water here around the boat where there isn't any wave action, so hopefully I'll be able to get some better shots here. I got a couple of split shots. I think those are pretty fun. Also a couple of fish, but yeah, nothing like too super awesome. And then, yeah, of course there's like the wreck stuff, but yeah, outboard, it was okay. Getting in the water with all the gear and a camera with a giant scratch magnet of a lens is not easy. I resorted to hanging the new darling precariously on the swim ladder. If we're gonna keep Athena, I really should figure out some sort of swim platform. I wanted some kind of stationary subject so that I could set the camera up on a tripod, get it nice and stable, and hopefully capture some small fish. The anchor seemed like a great candidate. I had noticed some smaller fish hanging out there the other day. I set the camera up and backed off to give the fish a chance to peek out from their hiding spots. It looked like it was working. I was so focused on my small friends I didn't notice my big friend that came to say hello. Hello, Mr. Ray. Unfortunately, he absconded before I got a chance to get any good shots of him. The lighting is not great and there's a bunch of stuff in the water still, so visibility is not awesome, but I got a couple of shots that I thought were at least a small step in the right direction. After about 30 minutes, the great big bubble blowing voyeur finally decided to give the poor fish some privacy. I had a lot of fun today. Now, and even though a small part of me is tempted to jump into the deep end and get an underwater housing for our big camera and a lens that's suited for that and so on, I think it's a good idea to just start cheap and keep it relatively simple. Also, if we do end up finding a new project boat, well, then I'm gonna be sanding 24/7 for the next 5 years. So yeah, we'll keep it cheap and simple for now. If everything goes according to plan, then Ava will be back on the boat next week. And if I'm lucky, then I'll be able to schedule my ABYC electrical certification exam for next week. And if I'm even more lucky, I'll also pass the exam. But as soon as Ava's back on the boat, we're gonna go get groceries, and then we're gonna be heading to the Bahamas, the first possible weather window we get. Apparently, the smart people are predicting that this year is gonna be the most active year on record in terms of hurricanes. So we're gonna be moving at a fairly brisk pace, hoping to get north of Cape Hatteras before, well, early in June at least. The reason we want to be north of Cape Hatteras is because that's our hurricane box for our boat insurance. We're both very excited about the Bahamas. I don't know if Ava is as excited about the ICW as I am. The ICW, if you're not from within the US, it's the Intercoastal Waterway. It's this system of canals and natural waterways that can take you basically from Florida and all the way up the East Coast. Now, going on the intercoastal waterways, there are some requirements for your boat. You can't have too deep of a draft, you can't have too tall of a mast, and because we don't know what our next boat will be, well, I think our best chance to do the ICW is to do it aboard Athena, because she only has a 5-foot draft and her mast is not that tall, so she's basically perfect for the ICW. When we get to the Chesapeake, we're going to be looking for somewhere where I can build our new carbon fiber dinghy. So like a little corner in a workshop or a garage or something like that. We have probably already at this point put out a video that's kind of out of sync with the videos asking if anybody know of a place. But yeah, hopefully we can find somewhere and I can get started on that build. That kind of gives you guys a vague idea of our summer plan. So head to the US, probably somewhere around the Chesapeake, do a bunch of boat work there, and then of course also hunt for a new project boat, see if we can find something interesting. But yeah, if you see us either at anchor or in a marina or out and about, feel free to come up and say hi if you want to. The whole reason I started doing these YouTube videos 10 years ago was to meet people and make friends, so yeah, that's still very much a goal. And on that friendly note, I will end this week's video here. I hope to see all you guys back here aboard Athena next week for the return of Ava and hopefully for passing the ABYC certification. But yeah, as always, feel free to leave a comment down below, and don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like. See you!